So I saw this interesting clip from a podcast named Pressed, and there were two black women named Mariam Musa and Alani talking about natural hair and beauty standards surrounding black women. And I wanted to talk about it because they raised some interesting points that I think are worth discussing. So I'll show you this clip and then I will go on to talk about my commentary.
This girl that made a TikTok and she was basically saying, at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your preference. You can spend it on what you want, how you want to look. But has the standard become a bit too unrealistic? So standard being lashes, weave, all this and that. It's for me, because I love that. I can't like that. But I also know how being into stuff as that has actually played on my self-confidence and also played on my own insecurities, and also that there's this standard that I know that does well. Let's be real, like if you look a certain way, your hair's on a certain way, you have that look, you attract what the mainstream society accepts. I think the men have made a standard of beauty. Like, we just followed it. Like, if boys were loving the afro, the short hair, do you not think everyone would do it?
Absolutely. But the reality is, guys will be like, "Oh, I love natural hair." Da, da, da. I'm just like, no, you love a type of natural hair.
Let's
don't
be
like,
real.
You don't like the 4C.
No.
You like the 3 Exotica.
Let's
you
be
like
real.
that.
Yeah.
That's what you like.
You like that.
Don't.
So this was the clip that I found. So although this is a 1-minute clip, there are a lot of complexities involved, but I want to talk about the main points discussed. I do want to mention that the comments that this clip received were pretty interesting. And I saw that a lot of them were from women talking about how these women on the podcast have a very male-centered view, which is true, but aren't most women, if not all women, male-centered to various extents? I mean, some are more male-centered than others, but regardless, there will always be a level of male-centeredness within us, because that is literally how we're socialized in a patriarchal society. Even the misandrists are male-centered to an extent, because the label misandrist that they carry is based on disliking men, which puts men in the center of the attention, right? So one of the things that was said in this podcast that stuck out to me was when Mariam said that men created the beauty standard that we women just end up following, which is true in many ways and untrue in other ways. So yes, men have created beauty standards that women end up following because, again, socially speaking, in many cultures in which patriarchy is the foundation, we are taught to do things that will appease and compete for men. And I guess this could be seen as sexual competition. Women compete for men, specifically heterosexual women. And also men do the same. They compete for women as well. But the main issue that male-centeredness highlights is that oftentimes women end up putting a man's needs first before their own. Just going back to the whole natural hair talking point, if the reason why you don't want to wear your natural hair is solely because the men around you have said that they don't like the texture of your natural hair, I can see why you would end up not liking your natural hair. Like, that's understandable because we do tend to care about the opinions of those close to us, and we also want to be accepted by them, because if those close to us don't accept us, then who will? But there's a very big but. Accountability needs to be applied, especially as you get older, because you do need to realize that you're letting a group of people dictate how you should feel about your natural state, which means your self-esteem will always be at their mercy. And in this case, at the mercy of men. Men's dislikes and likes tend to change a lot. And one of the things that I've realized is majority of the time, the things that they state they like in a woman is highly influenced by what other men find attractive. This means that their likes and dislikes are actually pretty fickle and flimsy and can change at the gust of a wind. A man could tell you he prefers women who don't wear makeup, but then you ask him to show you a photo of their celebrity crush, and then 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, the woman that he shows you is wearing makeup, and sometimes even a full face beat at that. So wearing your natural hair should be a decision only made with you in mind and not men. You should decide to wear your natural hair out because of how you feel about it, not what men feel about it. And I know for some, and most likely the ladies on the podcast, that's going to be a less desirable option to take because, as Mariam said, the aesthetic of wearing weaves and wigs that are not similar to your hair texture and essentially looking as ambiguous as possible, which I think is the look that you're trying to go for, this whole aesthetic provides the results that they want. And I assume that also includes attracting the men that they want. But my thing is, if you know you're not a man's physical type, especially in your natural state, why morph yourself into their type? I mean, you already know that the man doesn't really like your natural hair texture. He's not attracted to it. He's not attracted to your facial features. So shouldn't this tell you that you're not looking in the right places? Shouldn't this tell you that you're actually looking at the wrong men? Come on, guys, let's apply some logic here, ladies, because we can say that men have created these unattainable beauty standards for women, but women uphold these standards just as much, and they're even harsher towards other women about beauty compared to men. Most black women prefer to date and marry black men, which is normal because people do tend to gravitate towards people within their group. Unfortunately, though, they do like to go for the texturist black men, from what I've noticed. So what do? They change themselves to look more ambiguous to attract these men because they know that's what these men are attracted to. Trust me, the worst thing you can do to yourself and self-esteem is solely base how you view yourself on what a man thinks of you. Another factor that many don't mention about black women's dislike for their natural hair is how your childhood upbringing has a massive impact on how one views themselves. Many black women who do wear wigs and weaves that don't match their hair texture also have mothers, aunties, sisters, and just women in general in their lives that also do not embrace their natural hair texture. So this is why I have to kind of take a pause when we have these conversations, because it's not just all because of men. There are so many other factors that lead into this. Like I said before, women hold other women at a higher standard of beauty than men, and women know exactly how women treat other women who they do not find pretty. They can be just as mean and horrible as men can be, if not worse at times, because we are in closer proximity to other women than we are to men. And I believe that even if men as a collective said they prefer natural hair, type 4 hair specifically, there probably would be a lot of women who might do the switch if they actually saw that the men backed up this statement with actions, like praising women who have natural hair and so on. But I actually think a lot of black women would still hang on to that Cambodian silky straight hair because it's gotten to the point where it's a part of them now. Back to the topic of attractive men who prefer women who look nothing like unambiguous black women. From what I've seen, those women who, especially unambiguous black women who try to fit into that aesthetic of looking a lot more ambiguous, they will always be seen as second best. Because the guy could just go for an actual racially ambiguous woman. And when that happens, where does this leave you? All your efforts of trying to appease this man would have been wasted. Or in another scenario, the man could go for a completely different woman way outside of what he said his type is. And again, you would have wasted your time and energy and money trying to fit into a box that he only has just for decoration. And another thing that was quite interesting about this clip was that Mariam specifically has been vocal about how wigs have negatively affected her. And she's mentioned this on various other platforms about how wigs have caused her to have traction alopecia and bald spots. I think it's good to be open about these things to inform people about the potential downsides of wearing wigs and weaves, but she still wears them. And of course, this is her choice, but it just makes me think this really shows that women's desire to want to benefit from pretty privilege and always be in high demand. And in my opinion, it's totally fine to want to have pretty privilege and benefit from it. But these women and many alike seem to be trying to get pretty privilege by trying to change their features to resemble those of another group at the detriment of their own health, when in actuality, they could get pretty privileged by embracing their natural self more, including their natural hair, without having to put themselves in danger. And this is why I made my Pretty Privileged series to give unambiguous Black women, especially dark-skinned women, a guide in how they can attain it without having to subject themselves to harm and danger just to look like someone else, and still embrace your natural beauty for your self-esteem and confidence. What do you all think about this? If all men love natural type 4 hair, would women with type 4 hair, would they be, especially Black women, would they wear their natural hair more often? If so, let us know in the comments down below. And if not, tell us why you think so. And I'll see you in the next one.